At this time, we will accept public comment for items that do not appear on our agenda. Is there any public comment at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will accept public comment as each item is under consideration. At this time, we would look for one motion for an addition to the agenda. It is de minimis. It is for Tom Bolden. We just need to add Tom Bolden in for the Agricultural Land Preservation Board. We had a blank there when we circulated the agenda, so we just wanted to take action to add him, and it would just be for the term for being appointed as chair for January 1st, 2022 through December 1st of 2022. Would there be a motion to add that to the agenda?
Certainly. I will make the motion to add Tom Bolden as the chair of the Agricultural Land Preservation Board for a term of January 1st, 2022 to December 31st of 2022.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Anything else we would need to add to the agenda today? Okay, hearing none. We'll look for a motion to approve our set of minutes for today. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from the Board of Commissioners work session and meeting.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Okay. All right, at this time we are going to welcome up Mount Nittany Medical Center's Executive Vice President and Systems Development and Chief Strategy Officer, Tom Charles. And so, Tom, we thank you for coming today, and we are interested in giving the community and ourselves an update on the COVID-19 situation at Mount Nittany Medical Center. And so I just wanted to turn it over to you. So good morning, Tom.
Okay, well, thank you to all the commissioners for inviting me to come. I have a few slides I want to share, but it's always a privilege to come and give you an update, give the community an update, and happy to answer any questions as we go along here. So I'm going to start. We have a slide up of one of our hospitalist physicians. I'm really here on behalf of our team. We have a remarkable team across the health system. They've been at this for 21 months, working under incredibly difficult circumstances. They're a remarkable group of people. And, you know, you'll see their faces throughout my couple of slides here because they really are the individuals who we need to recognize and thank for working under incredibly difficult circumstances, you know, over the last almost 2 years now. I also want to stop before I get further and recognize the many families that have been impacted, that have lost loved ones throughout the course of this pandemic, individuals who are continuing to deal with the long-term effects of COVID. It goes without saying this is a serious virus. It's had a huge impact on families across Centre County and in our state college and surrounding communities. And I just want to pause for a moment and recognize that. So with that in mind, here's where we are. And this won't come as a major surprise. This is the average number of cases per day in Centre County. And you can see this goes back to last summer. We were down to very low numbers in the summertime. And as the fall has come and the winter has come, the number of cases in the community has escalated significantly to levels that we were experiencing last winter. And that's the underlying issue here, is the number of COVID cases has really multiplied, and COVID and transmission in the community has continued to grow, and that's the underlying issue here. And what that's translated to is a change in the number of patients in the hospital. And once again, you've been seeing this, or if you've been paying attention to what we are reporting in the paper, now this is the situation. And this graph takes you all the way back to last April, when we had very few patients in the hospital. It started to climb last fall, and it peaked at the end of December of last year into January. You can see that number came back down somewhat in the early spring. It spiked up again a little bit in the late spring, and then way back down to the point that we had, less than 5 COVID patients in the hospital over the summer. You can see what's happened in the fall. It's gone back up again. And if you look to the right here, you can see that since the middle of September, we've had almost every day, we've had at least 30 COVID positive patients in the hospital, which in the longer term view of the pandemic, that's a high sustained number. And we've never had a stretch of time where we've had that many COVID patients in the hospital. Alarmingly, and I mean alarmingly, you can see what's happened to that 30 number in the last couple of weeks. It's more than doubled. Last night, we had the highest number of COVID patients in our hospital at midnight that we've had at any point. in the 21-month pandemic. We had 76 COVID patients in the hospital last night at midnight, which is the highest number that we've had all the way through. And so I think the graph tells the story. We've been in a very challenging stretch because the level of COVID transmission in the community has continued to be high. Here's another way to look at it. This is the average number of COVID patients that we've had in the hospital each day by month. And last December, when we thought things were pretty bad, we had an average of 49 COVID patients in our beds in the month of December. So far in December, we're at 61. So again, you can see how much more challenging things are in our environment than what they were a year ago. If you read the news, you'll realize this is not just a Mount Nittany phenomenon. You can read to the east, Geisinger is struggling. Evangelical in Lewisburg is having its challenges. Altoona is having its challenges. You can take this beyond central Pennsylvania and read these stories all across the country. And we have been fortunate in that we've been able to not experience some of this depth of challenge, but it's with us right now, and that's the reality of it. And so we are doing what health systems have to do. On any given day, between the now 70 COVID patients we have and the number of patients that we cannot get out of the hospital because area nursing homes do not have the capacity to take them, we may have 80 to 90 patients in the hospital that we don't normally have. That takes staff time, that takes physical resources. We have to care for those individuals, but it means there are other things that we can't do. So we've been postponing surgeries because, and we don't like to do that, but we have to do that. Our wait times in the emergency department are much longer than what they've been. It's not the normal level of service that we're used to providing. We took an extraordinary step the other week of requesting that EMS consider routing cases that they're able to route away from the hospital. That's extraordinary for Mount Nittany to do that. We normally are the hospital to whom others turn when they're not able to do that. But, we just got to the point where we had to do that. So, I know our team is disappointed. I know our team would like to be able to do everything that we're accustomed to doing. But the fact of the matter is when you see these numbers, you can understand why we simply can't do it. So the takeaway is simply this. We will not be able to get back to normal operations until the transmission in the community goes down significantly. It's just not possible for us to do that. And I'm going to say what we've been saying forever. Get vaccinated. If you're vaccinated, get boosted. Whether you are or are not vaccinated, please consider masking. It's an additional layer of protection. This is an airborne virus. And please maintain appropriate social distance to limit transmission. We will say this now. We've said it all along. We'll say it the next time I'm here. These are the things that collectively lower the level of transmission in the community. It's the fact of the virus. It's simply what it is. Our team is doing a great job. They can't do everything. And as long as the levels of COVID remain what they are, you will not see a hospital that's operating in the way that you're accustomed to having our hospital operate. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Tom, we appreciate you coming in to share this with us. As we enter into the Christmas season, we're going to see the potential for more gatherings, family gatherings, community gatherings, and from any indication, with the Omicron virus, it is more easily transmissible.
Right.
Whether or not it's more severe, we'll see. The studies are still coming out on that, but it's clear that that number, unfortunately, is going to keep increasing unless there's more vaccinations. Continue to mask and social distance.
Yeah.
So we thank you for coming in today. We thought it was
Sure.
appropriate to come in to share this with the community, to give the opportunity for our county to be a host of your meeting, to share the message.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say is just really a plea to the community is for those of us who have not gotten vaccinated to really reconsider that decision. I think it's at the time is where there's evidence, there's in terms of vaccination, it's the best way that we can lower the numbers at our hospital. And so I would just ask our community just to reconsider for the individuals who haven't gotten vaccinated yet. I think it's a really important decision that we need to take a little bit more time to think about. So I'll just say that because I think it's the best and most appropriate way that we can guard against this.
Tom, I've got a friend who's been working with the ambulance services for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
He cannot remember a time when Mount Nittany had to divert emergency room cases to other hospitals.
Right.
Is he remembering that correctly?
It is incredibly rare, Mark. It is incredibly rare. We see hospitals around us having to do this for periods of time. I mean, it's not it's not like this doesn't happen from time to time where hospitals say, we need for a period of time here. It is highly unusual for us to take that step. Like I say, surrounding communities often depend on us to be able to do that for them. And so, that's attention getting. You can see when you look at these numbers why we may find ourselves in that circumstance. It's painful to have to do that. That is not anything anybody wants to do. But you're right, it is extremely unusual for that to happen.
We do very much appreciate what you and your staff are doing. It's my understanding COVID patients require substantially more care than your average patient. And as you mentioned, they're in the hospital usually substantially longer than your average patient.
Right.
And then a lot of them end up with long-term effects, and you can't just send them home. And at this point, from what you were saying, there's nowhere to put them because the places where you do send very ill patients who need additional care, maybe not to the hospital level, they're all full as well.
Mark, you're right. The system is under stress. I would, in the non-healthcare world, they talk about supply chain disruption. Well, this is disruption of the care chain. That's what's going on in healthcare. And so you're right. We have people in the hospital for the simple reason that they can't go home independently. They can't go home with home health. And normally they would go to a place that is not able to take them. And so we're keeping them and we're caring for them and we're doing everything we can for them, but they wouldn't normally be there. And so when you look at 76 COVID patients, you said something very important. Taking care of COVID patients is like a little hospital within a hospital. It is not the same as taking care of a regular patient. So 76 COVID patients takes a lot more resources than 76 non-COVID patients. And so that's all part of the collective challenge that all the central Pennsylvania health systems are dealing with right now. And it's just reflective of this underlying level of transmission that until it goes down, I'm not really sure that there's going to be any great way out of this, quite frankly.
And the solution is take the vaccine. Well over 1 billion people have done so, and to the best of my knowledge, almost nobody's died from that. Whereas we have 800,000 COVID deaths in the United States alone. Get boosted and wear a mask. Not like we haven't been wearing them for 21 months now.
The virus continues to be spread the way it's spread all the way through the pandemic. The only way to get on top of this is to break the train of transmission and to try to protect yourself as much as you possibly can to, prevent the likelihood that something bad happens to you. So, as I said, I am a broken record, but there's a reason I'm a broken record. There really isn't much else to say at this point.
I guess I will share my colleagues' enthusiasm for vaccination. I think that certainly is a way to break this chain. It's one of those things that, selfishly, I look at it, I want to be off a respirator. I don't want to be on a respirator. And even if you do get some sort of symptoms from the COVID vaccination, you do actually have a much, much greater chance of having
slight symptoms rather than ending up in your facility in a bad way. That being said, I was curious. I know years ago there was, you used to have a mass casualty tent that you could deploy outside your facility. Has there been any thought about using that as a triage or some way of limiting? Because I know one of the challenges you have is a negative air that's required in a COVID environment, so.
Exactly.
I was just curious more than anything else.
Yeah, well, thanks. So I want to say something before I get to the tent, which I'll get to. I want to say something. I did not mention during my presentation, we have a lot of very sick COVID patients in the hospital right now. Our ventilator utilization is high. If you go onto the state dashboards, you can see some of this information. So this is not a mild second wave. We have a number of very sick individuals in the hospital, and our level of ventilator utilization is up from what it's been throughout the pandemic. And so I want to make that point. This isn't a casual thing. We have some very ill people with all of that. Steve, to your second question, yes, those are assets that are controlled by the state of Pennsylvania. And so we and other health systems have been talking to the state about resources that they could potentially provide to us. That may be one. We've also all said that those are great physical things to have. You see other states doing things like bringing in National Guard nurses and things like that. So there has to be help from a staffing perspective because the volumes of COVID patients are so high that all health systems are doing the best they can with the staff they have. But finding a way to get us some help on both those levels, that's something that a lot of health systems are trying to talk to the state about how could that potentially be. Yeah.
Tom, a final question.
Sure.
I don't know if the press would have any questions, but can you paint a picture of what the hospital would look like, what kind of steps you would take if that number of hospitalizations goes from about 75 to 100, and then if that goes from 100 to 125?
That's a great question, Mike. There's if you look at other places across the country where things have gotten just, I'll say, unmanageable, then you do the best you can do, and that's all I can tell you. I mean, you try to do the best to care for people, to get them places that they can be cared for, but as I said, the systems that normally depend on each other to help each other out are all under strain. And so, it's one thing if one place is tough and everybody else says, hey, we'll help you out. If a lot of places are in trouble at the same time, then there's only so much you can do. And so it's a reasonable question, but, everybody just has to do the best they can, frankly, when you get to that point.
Let's hope we don't get there and we start to see that number curve down. So
We would love for that to happen.
thank you, Tom. We'll open it up to any questions from I think Gary's. Yeah.
At 76, does the hospital continue to open up new areas specifically devoted to treating COVID then?
It's a great question. Yes, we are doing the best we can to create that capacity as that number grows. There are limits to what we can do, but absolutely, we're adjusting to the best of our ability to be able to accommodate that.
Is it safe to say the number of patients coming in, there's a greater percentage unvaccinated versus vaccinated?
You're talking about hospitalized
Yes.
patients? Oh, absolutely. We would not have nearly the magnitude of challenges that we have if we were talking about, the number of hospitalized vaccinated patients. It is, far and away unvaccinated individuals. Yep.
Very ill, does that mean their average stay is longer than usual for other patients at the hospital?
Great question, it does. And it means the resource use to care for them is also more intensive than what it would be if you're less severely ill. So you're in the hospital longer. It simply takes more to care for a person who's more severely ill. So yes, both of those are true. Yep.
I've heard other healthcare providers literally say, we don't have any more beds available. Are you near capacity? Are you near that status?
Yeah, well, we're at the point where, as you can see, with the resources we have, we're having to do things like postpone surgeries. And so we are having the same set of capacity challenges that you're seeing other health systems report. And that's why I say it's not just a Mount Nittany issue. It's a community, it's a central Pennsylvania issue, really.
Thank you.
Tom, thank you once again. We appreciate you coming in.
Anytime. Happy to do it.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom. Okay, we're going to be heading into our ARPA session, and again, before we do that, I think again we want to, recognize the tremendous strain that Mount Nittany's under. We felt it appropriate to brief them, come in. We know it's a tremendously heavy topic and subject, but unfortunately, it's a reality that we as a community need to face and need to realize that it's still with us. So again, we appreciate Tom coming in. So we're going to segue into discussion of continuation of a contract with the consultants who are helping with our health department study. So we'll turn it over to Margaret.
Yes, thanks very much. The Board of Commissioners previously approved an allocation from ARPA funds to participate in a feasibility study for a county health department with the Borough State College. And this item today is the actual contract that we're asking you to enter into with the Borough State College and the consultant to perform that feasibility study over the next 6 months.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. And we had an informational session with them a few weeks ago. It was a public session, actually, where they discussed some of the updates, and it was very enlightening, very helpful to understand the mechanizations between the health department, what that would look like potentially, some of the data that they've already pulled. So it's been a helpful conversation for the last few weeks. So looking forward to the future of this. So, any questions or conversation on this contract? Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the contract with the Borough of State College and Flow Consulting, Inc.
I will second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any final discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Motion is carried. Okay, thank you, Margaret. And we'll keep it with you for Pathonetary's contract.
Okay, this item is for the Pathonetary's office, a contract renewal with Helen Stalinas of the Mazza Law Group to provide solicitor services for the Pathonetary's office. The contract rate is $175 per hour as needed, not to exceed an amount of $10,000 per year. This is for the period of January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022.
Thank you, Margaret. Any comments or questions on this? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to add the contract renewal with Helen Salinas to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Okay, thank you, Margaret. And for our Court Administration Office and CACJ, we'll welcome up Kendra Mickness, our Court Administrator. And Kendra, this is such an important contract for the court, so we'll turn it over to you at this point.
Good morning. This contract is, the total is $142,555. The contracts with, there's elements that are court, just the court, and then there's elements that the court shares this contract with the jail. The pretrial program within this contract is $136,086. That is what is shared with the jail. The court then contracts for the youth aid panel, $2,500. The mediation custody program for $39.69. And I think that covers all of them. But we put everything into one. So the jail and the court will share the expense of $68,043.
50/50.
Yes.
Okay, any questions or comments or feedback? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to add the contract renewal with the Center for Alternatives in Community Justice to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you very much,
Thank
Kendra.
you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, we're going to welcome up Norm Spackman, our Director of Public Safety, Emergency Communications 911. We have some guests with us, Norm, so we'll turn it over to you for an introduction of guests.
Yeah, today we have Carmine Prestia and also Greg Geis. Share a little information about Greg. He's joining us here today. Greg started his work career actually here in Center County, and I'm dating myself and him, working as a photographer for the Pennsylvania Mirror, and then also a videographer for the local TV station. Worked in the D.C. area for the rest of his career and then moved back to Center County and now supporting amateur radio. So we were asking for approval of an MOU with Greg and the Network Engineers Repeater Association to allow an amateur radio repeater to be installed at the old Rattlesnake Tower in Rush Township. Our tower site is a great location for this repeater to be able to link other critical amateur radio repeaters around the state so operators can connect for weather awareness. This is a great opportunity to share our tower site with another amateur radio function. Sharing resources with local amateur radio operators is good for the county since they are here to support us during disasters when other communications could be impacted. These operators often build their own equipment or use their own resources to get the radio equipment for these projects. The MOU will be for the period of January 1st, 2022 to December of 31st of 2026 at $1 annually charge. The MOU has been reviewed by the county solicitor.
Yeah, Mr. Geis.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, Madam Administrator. I want to thank all of you, the Center County Emergency Managers, Center County 911, and Director Spackman, very much for working with me and my radio club to establish an important asset. It's going to allow amateur radio operators in Center County to communicate. Specifically, we're beefing up the communication with the National Weather Service's Forecast Office, which is located at Innovation Park in College Township. Amateur radio operators, gentlemen, give selfishly of their expertise, their time and equipment, especially in support of public safety and public service. The installation by my club, which is a group called the Network Engineers Repeater Association, will enhance radio operators in the function of extending strong support to the Skywarn program into Center County. You have a situation where a large portion of the population base that's forecast from State College, and they have two, NOAA has two operations there. The Forecast Center that covers 33 counties, and the Mid-Atlantic River Forecast Center, and that's the organization within NOAA that forecasts flood levels, river stages, for example, critical during some of the nor'easter storms. Think back in 1972 about Agnes, and that gives you a good idea. But their population base is more or less in the Harrisburg, York, Lancaster area. So amateurs want to establish strong, reliable, non-internet based communications between this area and that area. And that's what this equipment is going to allow us to do. The capability will benefit everyone in Center County, and it allows amateur operators here to extend their capability to assist the Weather Service and other civil authorities in this effort, okay? Especially during times of critically bad weather. And while we all have cellular telephony and we have interconnected systems, we all know that a computer virus, that any kind of technical outage, an attack of some type could disrupt that. So we're trying to build a system that is redundant to that, redundant and reliable. And I want to thank you very much for allowing the county, for allowing us to, I sense, partner with the county to provide this. Very, very thankful. Reminding everyone in the room here to be weather ready, to keep an eye on the weather, to be thoughtful, to plan ahead of what you might do in that case. And again, gentlemen, to thank you and the county, Director Spackman, and all the others with whom I've dealt with from Center County. Thank you very much. As a resident of Center County, I'm happy to be able to contribute any expertise or any capabilities. And with my good friend Carmine Presti back there assisting in this from top to bottom, beginning to end, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we now know what Carmine's up to in his spare time now that he's been retired for some time from the bench. And so, but it's great to have you both here. And again, you said partnership, redundancy, that's really what this is about, to make sure that we still have communication if other systems go down. And again, it's going to keep people safe in the long run. So thank you. And kudos to you, Norm, for getting this done, being instrumental with this and making sure that we can again have this backup communication method. So yeah, please.
Yeah, Norm, thank you for working with our local amateur radio operators. As we've mentioned, there are parts of Center County that don't have cell service, so about one of the few ways you can communicate there is amateur radio. And of course, should the internet go down, and we've had some circumstances where it's come pretty close, one of the only ways left to communicate quickly over long distances would be amateur radio. And great to see you again, Greg and Carmine. I come to your events annually with the Amateur Radio Club so that you can check the box that a local elected official came by and said hello and watched you operate for a little bit. So happy to help you out.
I think we've all been aware of the recent tragedy in Kentucky and some of the other areas, and we realize how vulnerable we are at times to the weather and the circumstances that creates. And I think it's worthwhile to note that Carmine particularly has been incredibly influential in making sure that structure of redundancy has been, matter of fact, if you go down to our emergency operations center, he has his own little room down there, and you folks can work and do what you need to do in a really bad situation. But that being said, I think this is just one more key element in making sure that we have the resources in the event of a catastrophic event that does undermine all our ability to communicate. So thank you very much, and I appreciate all your efforts and your cooperation with everybody. And Carmine, as always, thank you.
Yeah, please, Carmine, if you wanted to address us, please, we'll get you on CNET.
Carmine's always been our go-to guy for this kind of thing, so.
I just wanted to emphasize for the commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to be here, that Greg's repeater also, although he focuses on weather, the repeater that it links to in Harrisburg is the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency's primary repeater in that area. If, in a disaster, PEMA stands up the amateur station at their headquarters, then we would, through his link, be able to talk directly to them. That's just part of the redundant backup for any kind of communications we hope to keep moving forward. Thank you.
Let's hope we don't need to use them anytime soon.
That's right.
I might say, we hope to not need it.
Oh, of course.
But the planning and the setup and the preparation and the training now allows you to be ready to activate on very short notice and to be successful in providing whatever communications are needed.
We did a mock training for a disaster a few years back, and we had that room activated. You know, there were inputs, as they say, during this mock exercise coming in through that channel when communications went down. So it's a part of that continuum of our emergency preparedness. So again, thank you for being here. Look forward to this partnership, and I guess the equipment would be installed soon. Once we approve this, great. Okay, we look for a motion then.
Motion to add the MOU with the Network Engineers Repeaters Association / Amateur Radio to next week's consent agenda.
We'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. The motion is carried. Gentlemen, thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for keeping us all safe.
We welcome up Krista at this time for a renewal. Krista, good morning.
Morning. I will change the topic and
Sure.
begin to talk about our county workers' comp program. So I just wanted to let you know we are doing well with our workers' comp program, but it is time to discuss the renewal for next year. So the two main things that go into the renewal are our experience modification and our payroll. And so to report well on our experience modification, that is a number that the state of Pennsylvania gives us, and this year it is 0.876, which anything below 1 is good. So that is great. It is a slight uptick from last year because we had a few claims that involved a little bit more attention, but we're still doing good. I just wanted to underline that. The other thing is our payroll actually did increase pretty significantly this year. So while our claims are doing well, our payroll did affect our renewal premiums. So we are looking at a 9% increase for our workers' comp insurance, and the amount in total is $142,296, up from $130,000 last year. So in summary, I'd just like to ask you for the approval for the workers' compensation insurance policy in the amount of $142,296 for a period of January 1, 2022 to December 31, 2022.
Thank you very much, Krista. Questions or feedback?
I remember when our workman's comp insurance was north of $400,000 a year, so I can tell you that our risk management program has paid huge benefits. But also, I want to recognize the efforts of everybody in our organization to keep those numbers and that experience mod is very impressive. And for an organization our size, I think that bears kudos to your organization and our county employee group as a whole, because those are great numbers.
Yeah, to kind of repeat what Steve said, part of this is driven by our raw payroll numbers, but a lot of it is driven by just how safely county staff operate and interact with our citizens throughout the county. So appreciate everybody thinking about safety.
Throughout the year, there's constant trainings that are being put on, and whether it's, from CCAP or I should say, from organizations like that, it just makes for a really good, safety program. So we appreciate all the work that's on this, Krista. Thank you. Okay, we look then for a motion.
Motion to add the policy renewal with the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association Insurance Company to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you, Krista. And at the chair's discretion, we're actually going to have Dave come up first. So then, Natalie, you don't have to. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. So we're gonna do the transportation item here first. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I come and ask the board to consider approving the acquisition of a 2011 Ford handicap accessible van with 37,644 miles that we would use in our transportation department. And this would be an in-kind purchase from Penn State with the all-inclusive amount of $25,300. This van would serve us well in many capacities. It would allow me the opportunity to utilize it for other departments should they need to transport handicapped individuals without taking something that we use daily out of service. So it would give us that luxury to do that. The one thing I do want to say, however, is Penn State is closing next week for 2 weeks. So at best, maybe we could get it approved by Thursday, that we could get the paperwork done and get all that processed as needed before the end of the year.
Maybe there's, if it's doable, we could even take action today to approve it.
That would,
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
that would be fine.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Any questions for Dave before we look for that motion?
Sounds like a great way to increase the flexibility in the transportation department.
Okay, we'll look for that motion then.
Motion to add the acquisition from Penn State.
Well, actually, approve. Do you want
To approve, sorry.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the acquisition from Penn State.
I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the acquisition from Penn State via in-kind funds. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Okay, and then Natalie, we'll bring you up those items. Good morning.
So the first item I have is for our vendor, the Nutrition Group, which does our home delivered meal program. So we're going to add a 6-month extension to that contract. As you can imagine right now with supply chain and nutrition groups, we did not want to put an RFP out this fall with that, and so we will be looking to do a request for proposal come spring to garner what Nutrition Group will want to do, and then potential other providers for this. As we've had a change to frozen meals, to the supply chain of food, we would just rather keep that group that we have now, make sure we can continue this into the rest of the fiscal year, and then look to do an RFP in the spring.
Sounds good, Natalie. Thank you. Any questions or comments on this?
Well, sounds good. Looks like we'll be doing just shy of 10,000 meals in a 6-month period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's worth a conversation at some point, as we begin looking at the reuse of Centercrest, and we have an industrial kitchen over there. If there's some way that we could utilize that conversation with our providers for meals, and see if there's some way we can integrate programs together. It would just make sense.
And kitchen space is an issue. That's one of the reasons we have frozen right now. Kitchen space is absolutely an issue for the vendors across the Commonwealth.
Well, we have an industrial kitchen over there that can feed a fair number of people. I think it's worth at least a conversation as we move forward to see if we can utilize that space.
Yeah, I believe if I'm right, I'm looking today, we do about 265 home delivered meals a week, I believe is roughly the number. Based on the report that we do every week, I think it's something right around there, so, to your point, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree, Commissioner. It's certainly something to look at. In the space, it's going to be difficult for us to utilize that space. And so we just seems like it would be a good conversation to have. With that kitchen, right kind of in the center of the facility. It's got access out the back. It would absolutely be a conversation, so, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, okay. All right. We'll look for a motion then.
Motion to add the vendor services agreement addendum with the nutrition group to next week's consent agenda.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Okay.
So I have before the board today our Human Services Block Grant Annual Report for the fiscal year 2021. I will say this has been a difficult reporting year. The Commonwealth had delays. This is the latest we have done this report, and since I believe we've done the block grant in 2012. But we had delays in receiving all of our fiscal and our financial reports from the state. And so the entire Commonwealth had a delay until December 17th, which is the new current due date. And so it just feels weird talking about this in December, but it's a good thing. So the financial report highlights the areas of mental health, intellectual disability, substance abuse, our homeless assistance dollars, and our human services dollars that we spend in adult services, which we receive $5.893 million from the state to do. And so this report shows you how we spent that across the board. It talks about the number of clients that we serve. So we look at unduplicated per session. So in our for mental health services alone, we serve 2,687 individuals. In our intellectual disability, we serve 58. Homeless assistance was 637, and our drug and alcohol was 417. And our human services was 1,267. But with our INR line and some other educational, we touched 10,020 people. So this serves a lot of individuals in our community. Our block grant's important to us. And a lot of what we talk about in the report fiscally is how we can move that money around, which has been the blessing that we have with the block grant. But for the report, we highlight all the financial obligations that we have and where we land. We did land this year at hitting the full 5% retained amount, based on just how we were able to spend our money and additional money that came in, how we allocated it. So we will be requesting retained for that, which I'll get to in a moment. But I think what is important is we do have to highlight impacts that we do in this plan. And so the impacts that we highlighted this year in particular was our case management. Both internally at Adult Services, we added that case management position, as well as assisting both CBIM and Center Helps with case management that they do for our community. We thought that was really vital to highlight. So we highlight those impacts in it, as well as we added funding this year to our emergency shelters. As you know, during COVID, our shelters had to reassess how we provide homeless services in our community. And by having funding in our block grant, we were able to provide support to our homeless shelters in Center County, which was critical at the time that we were able to. And so we highlighted that as part of our impact to the state. In terms of retained, due to the fact that we now really only have 6 months to spend retained now, because you have to spend it by the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th for us. We are looking to do 3 different programs in retain. And so, which runs about $280,000. One of those is we are looking to do a home modification program. Similar to the Office of Aging. As you are aware, Office of Aging was looking to implement a home modification and repair. We are starting to find individuals who are coming through protective services in the adult demographic, that if some home modifications were made to their home, they could maintain and retain that home. And so we are looking to mimic the program that Aging does and roll this out for 6 months, pilot it, see what kind of response we get. We're going to partner with a local nonprofit who will do the work part of it, but we'll be able to see about the referrals that we get to help people actually stay in their homes, which we think is important. The second program that we're looking to do is a truancy program. So truancy in our schools has been something that both children and youth and MHID office has been tracking and watching, and we have seen some growth in truancy over the last handful of years. Even pre-COVID, we were starting to see a bit of a trend and looking at it. And so we're going to partner with our Youth Service Bureau to start a smaller scale truancy program using our SAP teams. So our Student Assistance Program teams are already integrated into our schools, and we'll be looking to approach schools about, kids and families that are having truancy problems, seeing if they could benefit from family group decision-making, which is a great program that Youth Service Bureau does, to see if we can address some of the truancy issues. Again, we're going to pilot it just to kind of see where we go with what this could look like. And the final retained plan is our supportive living program. As you know, in mental health and intellectual disability, residential supportive living is important to us. We, in particular, have a great relationship with, as I like to call, the Eagles, Eagle Valley, but the other Eagle View and Eagle Ridge that they have developed for us. We have found that to be a great diversion from Danville State Hospital, a great opportunity for individuals with intellectual disability to have residential fund supports, as well as just the overall growth of supportive living. We've really seen people really kind of moving to supportive living versus maybe our other CRR residential. And so we'll be working with the primarily that provider to see if we can do some additional growth in beds and be able to obtain maybe some more opportunities for people with supportive living. And so those three plans, those three ideas are what we're presenting to the state for our retained plan. That really is the feedback that we get over the year from both our providers and our community about certain services and needs that we're seeing. And so this is pretty broad. It touches really all facets of the departments that are in Human Services Block Grant.
Thank you, Natalie. And do you have the breakdowns roughly in terms of the cost for each of the three programs, roughly?
Sure, yeah. Let me make sure I actually printed it off because I thought I did.
And also the
Sure.
nonprofit you mentioned for the home modification program, which nonprofit would it be?
So we're actually looking to partner, Calvary Church.
Oh, okay. Okay.
One of their subdivisions. They're the ones that have been really seeing families come to them about some needs, and so that's just on the surface who we're talking to until we finalize it. So the home modification program is going to be $75,000. The truancy program is $20,000. And then the supportive living is $186,927. Sure.
So really that supportive living is going to be the larger of the programs.
Yes.
And again.
Cost of either obtaining a new residency or enhancing the programs that we already have, maybe adding an additional bedroom, so forth. We want to be able to do that. So, but those are the ideas that we will present to the state as part of this report.
Any other questions or comments?
Just real quickly, so during the last state fiscal year, if I heard you right, county human services staff assisted 10,020 people. I'm assuming maybe there's a little bit of double counting with that, but that's still a whole lot of people.
So we actually did more than that because that 10,020 was just an informational education.
Oh, okay.
So we served 2,687 in mental health, 58 in intellectual disability, 637 in homeless, 417 in drug and alcohol, and 1,267 in the human services, and then the 10,020, that was the informational. So I would say there is some duplication. It's unduplicated per program, but then together, it's a little tricky to do.
All right.
Yeah, but over 10,000 lives have been impacted by the services that we provide with this funding, and our match is a little over 4% is the county match, and that 5.8 million then comes from the state.
All right, thank you, Natalie. So we will look then to move this to our Thursday meeting, that is 2 days from now.
Motion to add the Human Services Block Grant Annual Report for fiscal year 2021 to the Thursday, December 16th consent agenda.
Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is
Yeah,
carried.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Natalie, very much. Thank you. Under our consent agenda, we do want to note that the CVIM, that amount is $2,500,000. If you'll recall from last meeting, they had just gotten word that they got an additional $1 million RACB grant. So we do want to reflect that. Again, that would be for $2,500,000, and we did take that action last week. And I think that's all that we needed to recognize on that. So we then look for a motion to approve today's consent agenda.
Motion to approve today's consent agenda with the change to increase the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program funding for Center Volunteers in Medicine from 1.5 million to 2.5 million.
Moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. We do have quite a list of ABCs today, and this list was posted on our website with our agenda, and it also will be listed in the minutes. So I hope that it's okay if we don't go through each one today. We do want to thank everybody for serving. A lot of great organizations and groups on this list. So we'd look for a motion to approve as noted on the agenda.
Motion to approve the list of changes for the authorities, boards, and commissions.
I will second that with the caveat that I need to abstain from the Conservation District Board of Directors. So.
Okay. So would we want to then split it up?
No,
Oh,
fine.
you're just, okay,
I'm
you'll
just-
abstain from that from,
I should
okay,
abstain from that.
okay.
I'm on the list somewhere, too.
I know, I am too, so,
Well, whoever is on there, we can abstain about that.
okay, all right,
We'll just do it that way,
okay,
if you're mentioned on there.
that's fair, okay. I'm just trying to think how procedurally to do that. Okay, so are you just, would you abstain from the whole vote? Then I'm okay voting for myself. Do you want to, are you okay voting for yourself as well?
Well, I don't think we should all be abstaining from the whole vote, then we would.
No, I'm not abstaining from the whole vote. I just would like to
Abstain specific, it's like a line item,
Yes.
line item abstention.
Yes, right.
Okay, line item
I'm on the
abstention.
Conservation District Board.
Okay.
All right, we're this is trailblazing right here.
So I will approve the friendly amendment where the commissioners are appointing everyone on the list except for themselves. Those will be votes for 2 to approve and 1 to abstain. Is that what you were looking at?
That's correct,
Steve?
yes. And I will second that.
And vote on the amendment
and
when
with
we
the-
vote on the final?
And with the acknowledgement of Tom Bolden as the
Correct.
Agricultural Land Preservation Board Chair.
Would have been easier if I read them 1 minute. Yeah. Would have been
That's
easier.
all right.
I should have just read
It's
them.
okay.
Okay, all right, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So we approve the amendment.
Okay,
We need to approve the actual approval.
we can do that.
All right.
So Natalie is gonna, okay.
She's just going to shoot us.
Yeah.
Yes.
All
He's
right,
going
so
to
That'll make headlines.
Not let us play in the sandbox anymore.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And so what we can do next time is we'll list those separately whenever we're appointing ourselves. Maybe that would be the best way to do it. Okay, so we have taken care of that action, and that leads us into a presentation from Ann on our fee for local use for 2022, and we'll turn it over to Ann for that, and we also have a resolution as well. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hook up here?
Sure. It may have came loose. Come loose.
These are another one.
Oh, I see, okay. Okay,
All right, should be good now.
great.
So I have an update for the commissioners today, and there's going to be a fair amount of information, so bear with me as I attempt to explain all of this. But what should look familiar is the next slide, and that is the local transportation funding program that the commissioners approved in 2017. And those funding sources were fee for local use, liquid fuels, and Act 13 at-risk bridge funds. But what this has helped us over the years is provide flexibility to provide municipal funds for roadway improvements, but also to provide matching funds for various grants. And in the county's case, the big one being roadmap, us dedicating $5 fee, as it's more commonly known, toward $2 million worth of bridges, allows us to leverage federal funds, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Just a really quick table that I don't really expect you to be able to read, but essentially these are the projects that have been funded for fee for local use. And it has been great to see where these projects actually have come to fruition. So just over $2 million for road and bridges that have been distributed to municipalities. And here is my simple map showing where in the county the fee-for-local use funds have been distributed. This also includes the Center County bridge bundles, bridges, which are 5 municipalities. Just wanted to highlight that there have been 14 projects funded, over $2 million in award, and then this is how it has broken down for leveraging of other programs. Just above $4.5 million for multimodal grants, $1.6 million from municipal dollars, and then $2 million for roadmap. And this is a total of just over $8 million that we've been able to coordinate to get these projects toward completion. They're not all complete yet, though.
So to simplify it, we're taking the $5 from the fee, we've turned it into more than $20 additional dollars per $5. So we basically are taking the $5 fee and turning it into $25 of road and bridge projects, roughly.
It's one way to look at it. I hadn't thought of that. In terms of what this has helped, it's helped 15 municipalities, 9 bridges and 10 roads, and we are now at $1,729,466.02 dedicated to bridges. This is important because we need to dedicate $270,533.98 by the end of the year in order to fully meet that $2 million roadmap requirement for federal funds. And we are able to get there, but not to discount in any way. We have been able to fund roughly $291,000 to roads also in the county. And it's kind of skewed for a reason here in order to get our projects funded. I just wanted to do a little bit of the fee for local use balance and what it looks like. We've received roughly $600,000 in fee for local use this year. We have been moving the funds around in terms of meeting the roadmap funding, and that creates kind of a challenge visually to give you that information. But the 2 earlier March resolutions, we were transferring funds of Act 13 into those 2 bridge bundles. And then in August, we did that again. And then this resolution that you will see later in the meeting will be the 3rd transfer and final transfer to get to that $2 million. So just a couple things here. The resolution that you will see is for, that you had seen earlier, was using the June allocation for these bridges. Okay, and they are moving along, just in case you're curious. We are, PennDOT and the design team are plugging away at them, as well as the other bridge bundle. But we need that other resolution in order to complete the process for the bridge bundles. Now, just as a reminder, for every dollar of fee for local use funds, we are eligible for the federal roadmap funds. And this is important because we now have 2 bridges that have been approved by the MPO Coordinating Committee for those roadmap funds. So we kind of need to complete the process. There's always a timing problem, so we do have time, and that is the Hoy Road Bridge in Walker Township and the Lower Georges Valley Road in Potter Township. So this really is great because these are definitely 2 bridges in need of work. They are essentially in the top 10 in terms of bridges that need improvement. We received just above $341,000 this past December, and what that does is enables us to swap the remaining Act 13 funds of $175,000 in the bridge bundle. So that doesn't quite get us to, let me skip that slide. it doesn't quite get us to the full 2 million. So staff is actually recommending this, which is the Cato Road Bridge, because we still have to keep dedicating funds for bridges, as well as the Union Pike Bridge. I'm sorry for that typo. And then that gives us $249,350,000. That still is a little short, okay? So what staff is suggesting, and I had hoped by now at this point in the process for the bridge bundles, we would have had some idea of what the cost increases were, but we're still not there. So what staff would propose is the remaining dollars be part of the reserve, so that when those numbers come for construction, we have some wiggle room, but we also have exceeded what we need in terms of dedicating the $2 million. It kind of does both things for us. I did skip this slide. I just wanted to, I probably should have put this somewhere else. But these are the multimodal grants that have received funding in the county. 3 of them have received the full funding request. 3 have not, and they continue to work on finding means to fill in the gaps. More than likely, at least one project will be rescoped, and the other 2 will continue to apply for multimodal funds until there's some other option that becomes available. All right. So I just wanted to kind of highlight kind of what we've been doing this year. So in December 7th, we approved the liquid fuel allocations. This meeting, the purpose is to consider the recommendations. Tentative approval date of that next week. And then in January of 22, would really like to go over the entire local transportation program and kind of give a more comprehensive update about what each program has provided, rather than just focusing on fee for local use. So I will go back to this table because I figure that's probably helpful. The one thing I neglected to mention is Unionville Pike, they are also asking to use their 2014 county liquid fuels allocation as part of their project, which I did not put the number, but I did confirm with the controller's office that that money has not been spent. So it is still there to use. And I think it would be really good to actually kind of clear that and get it used. Yes, so, yes, it was $10,000 from 2014.
Okay, thank you. And just for clarity, the June allocation we received, we already utilized that for the roadmap drawdown into the
Yes.
bridge projects.
Yes, that was done in Resolution 13 of 2021. There was a little bit of reserve, but that reserve went into roadmap as well.
So when we go back to if you wouldn't mind going back to that slide that shows that the current balance, which is I think 2 million, yeah, that 2 million point 3. Of that's essentially been all allocated. That's all. If once we approve this motion for the recommendations,
Yes.
That's essentially not what we have available. It's just what's been allocated.
Yes,
Right.
if the commissioners so choose,
Right.
that would be a full district allocation of funds, yes.
Okay, fantastic.
That 2 million was a one-time deal, is that?
That's right.
So everything we do moving forward probably won't have quite the amplification of, okay.
If it's potentially, I mean, with the new bipartisan infrastructure law, it's a different story in terms of how much we can draw down from that. And with the multimodal funds, that would still be an opportunity, and then leveraging through the liquid fuels process. So, but it's fair to say that federal roadmap funding it's capped at $2 million. Yes.
Great.
So we're thankfully, we're able to utilize all of those funds. And to Commissioner Pipe's point, with the Infrastructure Act passing, hopefully in another year or two, we're going to see a lot more funding for local roads, and there's always a local match, right, Ann?
Yes.
And thankfully, we'll have money available to assist our 35 municipalities with the local match. Now, I'm noticing, oh, you had it up a second ago, with the Cato Road Bridge in Snowshoe Township, I think I toured that one with the Supervisor Prislovich. And then the Unionville Pike, in case some people aren't familiar with that, that's one of the most popular back roadways to get up to the Black Shannon State Park.
That was their second year of making a request, and we thought we should seriously consider it.
Good.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ann, for the outlining all that. A lot of numbers, a lot of data there, but we appreciate it. And we look forward to that kind of comprehensive view as we come into the new year. So thank you. All right. We look then for the motion.
Motion to add the 2022 fee for local use recommendations to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Okay, and then we have the resolution before us as well.
So that is the last step to fully swap out the Act 13 fee for local use, so that we are working toward the bridge bundles, the match is being fully funded with fee for local use funding. And that resolution is for $175,000 of the Act 13 that's remaining in that bridge bundle to be swapped with fee for local use.
So we've done a resolution for this before, and this would be the final one, hopefully, for that. But
Yes,
we'll,
I'm hoping
yeah.
to.
Okay. So we would also be looking to move that to next week's consent agenda.
Motion to add Resolution 16 of 2021, which amends Resolution 5 regarding the fee for local use to next week's consent agenda.
All right, we move that seconded. Any final discussion?
Thank you.
Hearing none? We'll just vote on it. No, I'm sorry. Did you want to make comments before we vote, please?
There
Yeah.
will be one more piece of paperwork.
Okay.
That has to be done from the commissioner side and sent to PennDOT. We're waiting for it. It's the amendment document for the agreement. They've gotten really busy and haven't
Sure.
been able to get it to me.
Understood. Okay, thanks, Ann. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Ann, thanks once again, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, we'll turn to Margaret for an administrator's report.
Yes, just quickly, I wanted to talk for a moment about the AMI test of site that's being provided right now by the Department of Health. The Pennsylvania Department of Health has changed the operation dates for the week of Christmas and the week of New Year's. I did provide copies on the table outside of the press release that DOH sent on Friday, but instead of a Tuesday to Saturday next week, they will open on Monday and they'll close at the end of Wednesday.
Okay.
They'll open the following week on Monday and repeat the same schedule. So we will put that information on our website. We have it at our front desk. I know this press release went out to the news media, but wanted to just underscore that the testing site is still operational, but with some different timeframes next week.
Okay, thank you very much, Margaret. Thank you. Okay, we'll turn to Commissioner Higgins for a check run.
Sure. We have a smaller than normal check run of $1,191,125.82. I'll go with, for Natalie Corman, a Human Services check of the week to Housing Transitions Incorporated. 2 checks for August housing and another one for November support services, totaling $17,068.39. And I will make the motion to approve the check run dated December 10th.
We'll second it. All right, we move that seconded to approve today's check run. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Checks have been approved. Okay, and we'll go to Commissioner Higgins for the voter registration report.
Okay, we have,
I'm sorry, Dershowitz. I apologize.
Oh, one of those.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm not prepped for that.
all right. Well, I am, so we're good. Okay, we have a total of 105,182 registered voters in Center County as of this morning. That's down 92 from last week's report. We have 44,114 Democratic registrants, 146 Green Party, 673 Libertarian, 14,149 no affiliation, and 42,225 Republicans, which leaves all others at 3,875. And of those minor parties, I would like to recognize the N/A party. And there are 2 N/A party registrants in Center County, so I just want to recognize them. In the, I don't know what exactly that stands for, and we're hoping it's just not applicable.
Yes, that's my guess.
Okay. The precinct report this week is precinct number 47, which is votes at the Ferguson Township building. That's Ferguson North 1. And in the last election, there were total registration of 1,760. There was 801 ballots cast, which led to a percentage of voter turnout of 45.51%. So we want to say that's not too bad of a turnout. And the folks that make it happen at Precinct 47, the judge of elections is Alan Dom. The minority inspector is Jennifer Money. Sorry if I butchered up your name. Majority inspector Barbara Burnett. And the clerks are Karen Peoples, Elizabeth Byers, and Nancy Doyle. And again, thank you to Ferguson Township for allowing us to use your facility. That's my report for this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. We do want to announce that Center County government offices will be closed Friday, December 24th, and Monday, December 27th, and that will be in observance of the Christmas holiday. Do we have any executive sessions to report?
Yes, we do. The Board of Commissioners met in executive session on Thursday, December 9th to discuss legal issues, and convening to a very brief session before adjournment today on a personnel.
All right. We have the balance of our schedule there. The press is no longer with us. We do want to thank everybody for staying with us, and we'll look for a motion to go into our executive session for personnel matters at this time.
Motion to go into executive session at 11.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.